Just when Chase Elliott fans thought this season was off to a promising start, things took an unexpected turn. Elliott, a former NASCAR Cup Series champion, began the 2025 season with high hopes and a strong performance. He impressed at the Busch Light Clash, a non-points event, showing that he was ready to dominate. His momentum carried into the Daytona 500 and Atlanta, where he was competitive and looked poised to be a title contender. At Circuit of the Americas, a challenging road course, Elliott once again proved his versatility with a solid performance that kept him in the mix. Things began to fall apart with Phoenix. Phoenix has always been an important date on the NASCAR calendar, being the venue for the championship race. A poor showing there acts as an immediate red flag for any driver with championship aspirations. Elliott's Phoenix troubles left serious questions in their wake. He needed to wrestle with some problems, and his results started to fade. Even worse, it wasn't only a singularly bad race, with those troubles also serving to reveal some worrisome areas in need of sorting out in his team. Elliott is normally cool, but he couldn't hide his aggravation after that dismal showing. He accepted that his team had a lot to do if they wanted to be in the discussion about the championship. Throwing chaos in with Elliott was the debut of Kathryn Legge in the Cup Series. The driver of record entered the race with some stock car experience, but was highly developed in the Indy 500, Formula E, and IMSA. Legge had 4 starts in Xfinity, plus 1 in ARCA, and was thrown into one of NASCAR's most demanding environments. It wasn't long before trouble found her. She spun twice in the race, finally bringing about a crash with Daniel Suarez, who vented his frustrations with NASCAR, but not really with Legge. Suarez pointed out that diversity and inclusion in the sport are good, but the approval of inexperienced drivers requires stricter measures. Chase Elliott remarked similarly on this. He said after the Phoenix ruckus, he wasn't holding anything back. The NASCAR Cup Series is the highest level of stock car racing, and the drivers out there need to be sharp. He alighted on the fact that he was one of those drivers who were charged to go through the meat grinder of actual testing before racing in the Cup Series. He feels that the very consideration that is in place here may be shooting itself in the foot as far as safety and competition are concerned. The mounting Elliott frustration and NASCAR's approval process bouts have made it clear that something needs to change before it is too late. But what happens next for Chase Elliott and NASCAR? Stay with us on that, because some revelations might be shocking. Don't forget, another driver taking up concern about NASCAR's approval process is mature Kyle Busch. Ranging from everything from experience with the system, it had been questioned by him on more than one occasion. He is the owner of a Truck Series team and has a front-row view of seeing inconsistencies in driver approvals. Kyle offered that it seems like more of NASCAR's decisions are being made by people wearing suits and ties versus folks who have been behind the wheel. He believes the vote for approval ought to rest with respected active drivers, those wearing fire suits. After all, they understand the struggle and danger better than anyone in a boardroom. This situation in which Busch finds himself has built up over the years, having spent many watching decisions made that have not, at times, matched the rationale for their alignment with safety and the competitive integrity of the sport. Approval decisions, in his opinion, should be based on a much deeper understanding of what performance takes to endure a NASCAR Cup Series race. In particular, after incidents like Kathryn Legge's struggles at Phoenix, Busch's concerns might have a bit more back all of a sudden. He believes that would even reduce the incorporation of the input from well-experienced drivers in improving the system against situations where underprepared drivers find themselves suddenly out of their depths. Denny Hamlin added fuel to the fire by comparing NASCAR's limit to that of IndyCar, which has a more structured approval process. The rigorous series of tests and evaluations members of the IndyCar family are required to participate in before being cleared to race. Hamlin pointed out that NASCAR does not have a protocol that follows a similar structure. This permits a debate on whether NASCAR is doing enough for driving readiness. But Hamlin raised an important question. Who pays for that new driver's training? Is it a cost borne by NASCAR, or will teams and drivers develop themselves. No better answer leaves the system flawed, a condition that allows mistakes with potentially damning consequences. There's Elliott, with Busch and Hamlin, all of whom are pushing change, and NASCAR will soon buckle under the weight of rerouting its approval process. All eyes will turn to the grid as the season unfurls to see whether this action will be taken seriously by the governing body, or whether yet another incident will need to force its hand. One thing seems certain: change is well overdue, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Interestingly, Joey Logano contributed to this debate by highlighting Kyle Larson's preparation for the Indianapolis 500. Larson isn't jumping into the car, though he's a champion in NASCAR by title. He's going to go through extensive testing, simulations, and a methodical path to prepare for the high speeds and perhaps unique changes he will face in running the Indy 500, Logano added. Meanwhile, NASCAR throws drivers, such as 20 minutes of practice, sometimes before a Cup Series race. That is the message that Logano was trying to put up. It underscores one of the major flaws in NASCAR's system. Full-blown preparation must cover an indeterminate period before it transitions to another discipline. Yet NASCAR expects safe performance from less experienced drivers, even with very little experience. This discrepancy questions whether NASCAR has done enough to prepare new drivers for Cup Series racing demands. Four-time Indy 500 winner Helio Castroneves was among the few who could fully experience how hard it is going into NASCAR. He had an impressive resume, but it did not hold much credence as he went outside the normal stock car racing. He went through all necessary simulations and tests before competing in NASCAR, yet adapting to the drag began to dawn on him. Barely making it through the qualifying process for the Daytona 500, Castroneves finished well down the order. His struggles told a lot about the holes in NASCAR's approval system. Even with a lot of experience by any other definition, an athlete can find it daunting to enter the world of stock car racing. Castroneves' case thus reminds us that just because one succeeds in open-wheel racing doesn't mean one will automatically translate that success to NASCAR. It goes further to prove that NASCAR's system needs to be improved, broadened, and enhanced so that those little details can be seen to make a really big difference in preparing drivers for the competition at the very top. Most drivers making a smooth transition to NASCAR come progressively, as did Juan Pablo Montoya and Danica Patrick before them. They both took the time to start learning the NASCAR game in the lower tier before advancing up to the Cup level. Kyle Larson, the one who later became a NASCAR champion, also followed the same gradual progression before he reached the top. These examples emphasize that most drivers who succeed in NASCAR do not rush into the transition. They take time to understand the nuances of stock car racing, something that NASCAR's current approval process seems to overlook. Well beyond piling issues, this puts NASCAR's system most scrutinized and under fire. Forthcoming changes will see to it that preparation and performance gaps do not continue to increase, or that incidents that could have possibly been prevented further do not occur. Much more of this has been coming to the fore under recent concerns about NASCAR's approval of immature drivers compared to what has already been cited. Celebrities like Catherine Lega and her tribunal at Phoenix, along with Helio Castroneves and his ensuing struggle at Daytona, have not been able to fill the approval process of NASCAR with consistency. Experienced drivers voiced their concern on how some drivers, trained very little in working a stock car, might consider competing at the highest level. Not only does this endanger the rookie driver, but it also creates havoc for the experienced competitor who has to go on the track with unpredictable situations. The growing frustration from elite drivers mostly stems from safety issues and the level of general competition. NASCAR has evolved in many ways, but for some insiders, it is time to revisit its approval system to ensure that only thoroughly prepared drivers take the wheel. Without that, the integrity of the sport is threatened. What do you think about NASCAR's current approval process? Should new drivers undergo more rigorous preparation before entering the Cup Series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on NASCAR's biggest stories.